this lesson is to learn how to make line plots and how to answer questions after we make our line plots and organize our data. So a line plot is used to, whenever you have data from measuring or weighing things or whatever you're getting data from, instead of having this big old glob of data, we can actually sort it and organize it so it's easy to see. So in this particular problem, it says Liliana needs to buy beads for a necklace. The beads are sold by mass. She sketches a design to determine what beads are needed and then writes down their sizes. The sizes are shown below. So here's all the sizes of every single bead in this necklace. Now, to build a line plot, we first off make a number line at the bottom, and whatever the smallest measurement is here, that's going to go on the left. So notice 1/5 is the smallest ones. That goes on the left. And the biggest one, it looks like 4/5 is on there, that goes on the right. So they just kind of go in order like a number line. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to put an X above the fraction of for mass here, however many times it shows up in our data set. So let's start with 1/5. 1/5 is already done for us. And if you look in our data set, 1/5 happens 3 times. So that means we're going to put 3 X's in the 1/5 column. Notice that every X is exactly the same size and spaced apart exactly the same. Alright, so the next one is 2/5. So I got to look at how many times 2/5 shows up in our data set. And it looks like 2/5 happens 5 times. So that means we're going to have 5 X's to put on top of 2/5. Now notice I want to keep them the same size and the same space apart. So notice that the 3 X's should be exactly the same. So we need 2 more here for 2/5. And that's 5 times. So the X's on a line plot means that's how many times it showed up in the data set. Now the next one is 3/5. So if I look at 3/5, there's 1 there, and 1 there. So it looks like there's 3 of those. So we'll put 3 X's above 3/5. Notice, once again, they're the same size and spaced out exactly the same, so that all the 3 X's are lined straight up. Okay? And then finally, at the end, you see there's 2 4/5 left. So we'll put 2 X's there as well. Okay, so now we've organized our data and we can find out a bunch of things about these sizes. First off, we can see which one happens the most often. Well, 2/5 does because it's the tallest. So anytime you have the tallest one in line plots, that means it happened the most times. Same thing with being the shortest. That means it happens the least amount of times. Now, we can also look at and we can find the total weight of each column. So now there's 3 X's above 1/5. That does not mean 3 grams. That means 1/5 happened 3 different times. So that means every one of these X's is 1/5. So if I add them up, I get 3/5. So a lot of times I like to, on my line plots, add them up and just put it at the top of the columns. Now in this column we have 5 X's and every X stands for 2/5. So we're going to count by 2/5. So 2/5, 4/5, 6/5, 8/5, 10/5. Now 10/5 is improper, so we divide that. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So this is 2 total grams in this column. The next column is 3/5. So we're going to add each one of these up, and every one of them is 3/5. So we're going to count by 3/5 now. 3/5, 6/5, 9/5. Now 9/5, if you divide that, it goes in once with 4 left over. So 1 4/5. That's the total, 1 4/5 grams for the 3/5 beads. And then the 4/5, we're going to count twice, this time by 4/5. So 4/5 plus 4/5 is 8/5. And if we divide that, we get 1 3/5. Okay, so now we can see the total of each type of bead. Now, one thing that you're going to be asked to do in these line plot type questions is find the average. The average means if we met right in the middle of all this data, what would be the average or the middle size? All right, so let's take a look on how to do that. The first thing you do is you add up all the data. So we have to add up 3/5 and 2 and 1 4/5 and 1 3/5. Okay, so I'm going to add the whole numbers first. So 2 plus 1 plus 1. That equals 4. Then if I look at the fractions, I got 3/5 plus 4/5 is 7/5 plus 3 more fifths is 10/5. 10/5, if we divide it, equals 2. So that's 2 more. So that means our data set added up equals 6. Now that's the first step in averaging, is you add up all of your data. Then you're going to divide it by, remember the fraction bar means divide, we're going to divide it by how many numbers we added up. How many numbers were in our data set? Well, that's easy to find out. We just count up how many x's there are. So there's 3 here, plus 5 more is 8, plus 3 more is 11, plus 2 more is 13. So there's 13 numbers that we added up. So 6 divided by 13, since that's not an improper fraction, that's our answer staring right at us, as long as it's reduced. 6 divided by 13 is 6/13. So the average of this data set is 6/13. That is how you make a line plot. That's how you find the totals of each column, and that's how you find the average by adding them all up and dividing by how many numbers there are in this data set.